In the heart of fog-covered London, beneath gaslit alleyways and the creaking wheels of carriages, lives a mind unlike any other, a man who observes the unseen, hears the unheard, and solves the unsolvable. That man is Sherlock Holmes. But even the greatest mind of the Victorian era would soon confront a mystery drenched in superstition, murder, and a howling terror from the moors of Devonshire. This is the tale of the Hound of the Baskervilles, a legend reborn, a curse resurrected, and a case that would push Holmes and his loyal companion Dr. Watson to their limits. The rain drizzled steadily on a gray London morning. Inside 221B Baker Street, a fire crackled in the hearth. Sherlock Holmes sat cross-legged in his armchair, a faint smile curving on his lips as he examined a walking stick with a silver head. Beside him, Dr. Watson watched intently. "Interesting," Holmes murmured, running his fingers along the engravings.
"James Mortimer, MRCS," Watson read aloud.
"But what sort of man leaves such a personal possession behind?" Holmes mused.
"It was left here intentionally," Watson offered.
Holmes turned his sharp gaze. "Exactly, which means the game is afoot." Moments later, the door opened, and in walked a nervous, slightly disheveled man, Dr. James Mortimer. He carried an air of intellect, with a hint of superstition in his trembling voice. He unfolded an aged, yellowed manuscript.
"This," Mortimer said, "is the legend of the Hound of the Baskervilles." The tale he read chilled the air. Sir Hugo Baskerville, a ruthless nobleman, had once kidnapped a young farm girl. She escaped, and in a fit of rage, Hugo made chase, only to be found dead on the moor, his throat torn out, and beside him, a gigantic hound, spectral in the moonlight. Since then, members of the Baskerville line had fallen mysteriously, always under the shadow of the moor, and always with a whisper of the beast. Dr. Mortimer's hands trembled as he spoke. "Sir Charles Baskerville was found dead just weeks ago. His heart gave out, yes, but near his body were the prints of a hound. A hound, Mr. Holmes, larger than any natural creature." Sherlock's eyes gleamed.
"You want me to find a dog?"
"No, Mr. Holmes. I want you to prove if the Baskerville curse is real."
Holmes leaned back, fingers steepled beneath his chin. "We do not deal in curses, Doctor. We deal in facts. But very well, let us venture into the fog." And so, the great detective turned his gaze toward Dartmoor, a land of mist, murder, and mystery. A few days later, under a dreary sky and the whistle of the morning train, Dr. Watson and Sir Henry Baskerville, the last surviving heir, departed for Devonshire. Holmes, to Watson's surprise, chose to remain in London for a few days longer. "You have your instructions, Watson," Holmes had said with a smirk. "Observe everything. Report daily. Trust no one." As the train thundered through the English countryside, Watson couldn't shake a growing unease. Sir Henry, youthful and confident, seemed unbothered by the tale of the curse. But Watson noticed the shadows in his eyes, the kind that linger when fear has taken root. At the station, they were met by a coachman and soon passed through a land unlike any Watson had seen, the Grimpen Mire, a deadly bog that could swallow a man whole, surrounded by craggy hills and endless gray moors. As dusk fell, Baskerville Hall loomed ahead, cold, ancient, and heavy with silence. The butler, Mr. Barrymore, and his wife greeted them with formality and sorrow. The halls echoed with absence. Sir Charles's portrait hung above the hearth, eyes seeming to follow Watson wherever he walked. That night, Watson was awoken by a sound. A low, distant howl, long and mournful, not of a normal hound, but something more primal. He rushed to the window. Fog crawled across the moor like fingers. In the distance, a faint light flickered. The next morning, Sir Henry received an anonymous note. "As you value your life, keep away from the moor." Who had sent it? Who wished to protect or silence the last Baskerville? And why did Mr. Barrymore act so strangely? Why did he sneak through the hallways at night? Watson's journal grew thicker with questions. As days passed at Baskerville Hall, the atmosphere thickened like the mist outside. Dr. Watson, ever vigilant, noticed peculiar behavior from the butler, Mr. Barrymore, who often wandered the corridors at night with a candle in hand. Suspicion grew. One night, Watson followed him. Hidden in the shadows, he saw Barrymore signal with a candle through a high window toward the moor. "To whom is he signaling?" Watson whispered. The mystery deepened when Watson confronted Barrymore. With trembling lips, Barrymore confessed he and his wife were aiding her fugitive brother Selden, the escaped convict hiding in the moor. "We gave him food," Barrymore admitted. "He's a monster in the eyes of men, but blood is blood." Watson was stunned, but the true terror lay not with Selden. That same night, Watson saw a man on the tor, watching from the high rocks, silent, still. Someone else was out there. Someone who didn't want to be seen. Determined to investigate, Watson ventured into the moor the next day. There, he encountered Mr. Stapleton, a naturalist and moorland resident. Stapleton lived with his sister Beryl, a striking woman with frightened eyes. Strangely, she mistook Watson for Sir Henry and gave him a cryptic warning. "Go back. Leave this place while you still can." Something was wrong. Beryl was clearly terrified. But of whom? Her brother? The moor? The curse? That night, the hound's chilling howl rang again across the moor, freezing the blood in Watson's veins. The legend was beginning to feel all too real. The moor grew ever darker, its secrets tangled in fog and fear. Watson, burdened with unanswered questions, decided to investigate the shadowy figure on the tor. He climbed the rocky hill under a pale sun, cautiously making his way to a small, hidden hut. Inside lay a coat, breadcrumbs, a cold fire, and a bundle of papers, including one of his own letters. "Watson."
The voice came from behind. He spun around, and there he stood. Sherlock Holmes. Watson was stunned. "Holmes, you've been here all along?"
Holmes smiled, eyes sharp. "From the very beginning, I needed Stapleton and everyone else to believe I was in London. You, dear Watson, were my decoy." Holmes had discovered much while hiding among the rocks. The mysterious Stapleton was not who he claimed to be. Beneath his naturalist disguise was a man with a criminal past, a Baskerville himself, vying to eliminate Sir Henry and claim the estate. Stapleton had manipulated everyone, even his own wife, posing as his sister, to ensnare Sir Henry with charm, deceit, and fear. "And the Hound?" Watson asked. Holmes's expression hardened. "A monstrous dog, starved, painted with phosphorus to glow in the dark. Superstition made real. Terror, Watson. Terror was his weapon. But time was running out. Stapleton had planned his final move. That very night, Sir Henry was to cross the moor alone. We must act," Holmes said, his voice low. "Tonight, we end this." The night was thick with fog as Holmes, Watson, and Sir Henry prepared to face the terror. Cloaked in darkness, they watched from the edge of the moor, every nerve taut with anticipation. Deep, guttural growl broke the silence, a sound so fierce it seemed to shake the very earth. From the swirling mist emerged a gigantic, spectral hound, its eyes glowing like burning coals. The creature's breath came in heavy clouds as it advanced. A living nightmare made flesh. Sir Henry stood frozen, terror-stricken but steady, clutching his walking stick. Holmes and Watson raised their rifles, their aim steady despite the pounding of their hearts. The beast lunged. A deafening shot cracked through the air. The hound yelped, stumbling but relentless. Another shot rang out. The creature collapsed, twitching, its unnatural glow fading. Holmes and Watson rushed forward, uncovering the massive dog, starved, covered with phosphorescent paint to create the illusion of ghostly light. At that moment, footsteps approached, the real Stapleton, wild-eyed and desperate. "You'll never take me," he hissed, fleeing into the mire. But the treacherous Grimpen Mire claimed him. The moor swallowed him whole, silencing the last of the Baskerville curse. Back at Baskerville Hall, peace returned. Sir Henry was safe, the ghostly curse unmasked as man's cruelty and fear. Holmes mused quietly with Watson. P250 Fable Dollar. The world is full of obvious things which nobody ever observes. "This case," Watson replied, "reminds me that even the darkest legends have human hands behind them." P250 Fable. As dawn broke over the moor, the sun chased away the shadows. The Hound of Baskerville was no more, a tale transformed from terror into truth, forever captured by the sharp mind of Sherlock Holmes. The moor was cloaked in an eerie silence, the kind that precedes a storm. Holmes, Watson, and Inspector Lestrade stood at the edge of the Grimpen Mire, their eyes fixed on the treacherous path ahead. The fog hung low, obscuring the landscape and muffling every sound. Suddenly, a distant howl pierced the stillness, a chilling reminder of the hound that had terrorized the Baskerville lineage. But this time, there was no fear in their hearts, only determination. Holmes turned to his companions. "We must proceed with caution. Stapleton is desperate, and desperation makes men dangerous." They ventured into the mire, each step calculated, avoiding the deceptive patches that could swallow them whole. The ground was unstable, and the fog thickened, making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. After what felt like hours, they reached a small island of solid ground. There, they found remnants of a campsite, evidence that Stapleton had been there recently. A tattered map, a half-empty bottle of brandy, and footprints leading deeper into the mire. Holmes examined the map. He's trying to navigate through the mire using this, but the paths change with the weather. He's lost. A sudden scream echoed through the fog, a sound of pure terror. They rushed toward it, navigating the treacherous terrain as quickly as they dared. They arrived just in time to see Stapleton, waist-deep in the mire, struggling to free himself. His face was a mask of panic, his arms flailing. "Help me," he cried. "Please." Holmes extended a branch toward him. "Grab on." Stapleton reached out, but the mire pulled him down further. With a final, desperate cry, he disappeared beneath the surface, the bog claiming its final victim. Silence returned to the moor. Back at Baskerville Hall, the atmosphere had transformed. The oppressive gloom had lifted, replaced by a sense of peace and renewal. Sir Henry, though shaken, was determined to restore his family's legacy. Holmes and Watson prepared to return to London. As they stood by the carriage, Sir Henry approached them. "I can't thank you enough," he said. "You saved my life and my sanity." Holmes smiled. "Just doing our duty, Sir Henry. Remember, the world is full of obvious things, which nobody ever observes." Watson added, "And sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we create ourselves." With that, they departed, leaving behind the moor and its dark secrets.